This is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.
What's up? Welcome into the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. We are, 5 days into the NFL's new year, the free agency period, and the Cowboys are more active than they've been in years past, maybe with the same quality of player, but there's more of them. Does that buoy your spirits at all?
I don't know about buoy my spirits, but it buoys my spirits that Mike's back on the show. It's been a while,
I am
man.
back. It has been a very long time. I was gone for almost 2 months, but we're back on the horse, so good to be back.
You missed most of the drama.
I missed everything, dude. My goodness, I missed everything. Just the biggest sports story in Dallas since, I don't know, Jerry buying the Cowboys. Yeah, I missed quite a bit. There was a lot of FOMO while I was gone.
I can only imagine. Well, we still got a lot to get into specifically for this week, so let's get right into it with What's on the Show.
Here's What's on the Show, sponsored by NFM.
Man, it is so good not talking about the Mavs for a full show for once. And I would be excited to shine the spotlight on the Dallas Stars for once after some interesting results this past week against some pretty good competition. But Mike, the Cowboys are proving the Mavs do not have a monopoly on compelling sports personal drama. We'll break down the moves that Dallas has made in free agency and DeMarcus Lawrence's comments on his way out the door. Plus, it's the return of no fence riding. Back-to-back weeks kicking people off the fence, but also because I'm petty. I'll explain that later. First, that's what's on the show, Mike. Now, who's on the show?
Who's on the show today? Two of our regulars, Saad Yousuf and Clarence Hill of All City Dallas. Saad from The Athletic. Gentlemen, we appreciate you guys being with us as always. What do you guys make of a rather drama-filled first week of the offseason for the Dallas Cowboys? Tank Lawrence and Micah Parsons backbiting as Lawrence makes his way to Seattle. Chill, I'll start with you. What did you make of the dust-up on social media the other night?
Well, if you're paying attention, there was always something bubbling beneath the surface between those two guys over the last 4 years. And certainly Tank is the big dog, the longest tenured defender, one of the longest tenured Cowboys. And it was an alpha male type of warring over control of the locker room, or certainly the defensive meeting room, and that was always there. And if you notice, when Tank initially signed with Seattle, Micah Parsons greeted his signing on Twitter with,
"Yes,
it's my time now." That is my time. It wasn't congratulations. It wasn't good luck. It's my time now. Like, I'm the big dog now. I'm the king of the jungle now. And so as the king of the jungle, when Tank went up there, listen, I love Tank. He's always, cut it straight. He's always said what was on his mind. And, he didn't really care about feelings. When he said, I'm in Seattle, Dallas is my home, but they ain't winning the Super Bowl there. With Michael saying, well, listen, you're talking about us now. I'm the leader. I got something to say. And then it was off. And so what was bubbling beneath the surface was, on fire for the world to see.
It was purely entertaining. Saad, go ahead.
Yeah, and beneath the surface for a long time. But last year, I think after Lawrence made the comments after the playoff loss about how, some people ran out of gas and things like that, and Micah responded the next day on his podcast saying, that's not the culture that we want, that we need to weed those people out. At that point, it kind of went from beneath the surface to very obvious that those two had a little bit of animosity there.
It was very clear when Tank did his interview, and I know you guys have seen the clip. I know every Cowboys fan at this point has seen the clip. The way that he turned to the camera like, yeah, I said that. He was goading either Michael or all current Cowboys maybe even on with that statement. Certainly Micah, it would seem at the very least, and then the Twitter beef continued on from there. What did you make of the way that Tank approached the situation and the way that it did seem like he was trying to create some havoc here?
Yeah, I don't know if he was necessarily trying to create havoc. I think he was saying something cool for Seattle's audience there, certainly. I don't know if it was a shot at Micah. Certainly when Micah came at him and he started talking about the Twitter fingers and we'd have won more not a stage, that's two totally different things. The initial thing about winning the Super Bowl, he said what everybody else has said. We've all said that, right?
Yeah.
They're not winning the Super Bowl in Dallas. That was more of a shot at the way the Cowboys run things. Jerry Jones run things than any individual player that's not winning something in Dallas. I think that was a shot at that, but I don't think it was a shot at Micah. Let's be honest. And then he took it to the next level when he said, well, if you'd have been on Twitter, we'd have won more and I might have stayed. No, you weren't staying. The Cowboys didn't offer him a contract. And And certainly Seattle paid him, give him a 3-year, $42 million contract, $18 million guarantee. Tank was always going to the highest bidder. Again, he's one of the business of football winners in Dallas. I remember a few years ago, he was a free agent when he put the franchise tag on him. He told Steven, you want to be an owner, that's a youth problem. Your salary cap and that pie stuff is not my issue. That's your issue. Pay me what I'm worth. And he was always going to be paid what he's worth. He was not going to go anywhere and take no team-friendly $3 million deal. And the Cowboys know that they didn't offer him a deal. But, that's where it was. And so I don't think initially he was taking a shot at Micah. He was, going with the narrative, the trend, the 30-year drought, everything that part of this Cowboy culture, that's what he was talking about.
Saad, what do you think?
Yeah, well, and also just real quick, I think, on top of all of that, I think where Lawrence loses a little bit of that, I guess, whatever cachet in the court of public opinion is he went to Seattle. So it's, if he went to Kansas City or Buffalo or something, you kind of hear him a little bit more. It's like, yeah, Dallas probably isn't winning the Super Bowl, but one of the teams that is probably behind them in that ranking in the NFL right now is probably, hitching your wagon to Sam Darnold and thinking that, the Seahawks are going to be the ones that are going to be winning the Super Bowl there.
So yeah, not exactly the premier contender. What did you think about the way that the Cowboys, Tank's response to the Cowboys, because he was a good soldier for this team for a really long time, did a lot of good things here, and clearly the Cowboys weren't interested in paying him anywhere near that number to stick around.
That's the kind of question that I have coming out of this is how does this affect the team as far as a mentality perspective? Because Lawrence has been, like you guys have been saying, the voice for so long, and he's kind of carried that no-nonsense attitude. But if Micah is bringing a different energy, what is that energy? Because we've seen what he does on the field, but we also see everything off the field. It kind of feels like he's embracing the circus just as much as Jerry and the higher-ups are. Almost when we were talking about Dak in the offseason, kind of fist-bumping Jerry as he went down the hallway talking about contract negotiations. How much is Micah feeding into that culture now as opposed to the winning culture that all of us kind of want to see? Saad, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a generational gap type of thing as well. This is just kind of what these younger guys, Micah, all these guys, Trayvon Diggs falls into this category. I think Dak is more of the older guard when it comes to this stuff. And so I think it's just kind of the way that you have to accept your talent, accept that your talent is going to do this. And look, as long as he's producing, as long as Micah racks up these double-digit sacks and he goes out there, he improves every year, and he gets after the quarterback, the Cowboys will put up with everything. But that whole culture of what the culture looked like in the past, I mean, that's not what you're going to get with today's athlete, especially not one as online and as tuned in as Micah is.
I'm intrigued to see what Micah Parsons can do now that he is the big dog, now that he is king of the jungle for the Dallas Cowboys, because he does have a certain magnetism to his personality. He has the goods to be able to do this and be a leader at a high level. I think he still has to figure a lot of things out about himself before he's there yet, but he has the goods. Let's see you actually bring that to fruition now, Micah, because he does have the ability to do it. We've talked about all of the drama, all of the craziest. Let's get into what they've actually done. Who's staying? Who's coming in? Who's going? Let's talk about all of that, what's actually happened from a football perspective when we come back on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
Today's headlines, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
The Mavs come up short against the 76ers, and both P.J. Washington and Max Christie both voiced their frustrations over the Fire Nico chants after the loss. And Mikko Rantanen returns to Denver, but the Stars' valiant comeback effort falls short in overtime against the Avalanche, 4-3. So Rantanen, a key example of a local team making big moves in free agency to try and get their team over the hump. Mike, that brings us to the Cowboys. What'd they do?
Yeah, more Mikko, less Nico, right?
Exactly.
That's the tenor right now in Dallas. Listen, the Cowboys have made moves. I'm curious what you guys think about as we bring Saad, Yousuf, Clarence Hill back in here. They've made way more from a pure numbers perspective. They've made way more moves this year than we normally see them make. They're all kind of in the same general level of meh, but there's a lot more of them, and maybe one or two of these guys is going to pop for them. What do you guys think of what they've done so far? Saad, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bar was set pretty low last year with the way that they approached it. And if you're comparing it to that, then they've certainly done a lot more. But to me, I look more at the 2020 offseason because that was the first year they had a new head coach and kind of how they approached that. It was a lot of those same type of things. They had veterans Dontari Poe, Gerald McCoy, guys like that were coming in, and they signed those guys, and it was great. But again, this year, instead of those old veterans, it's a lot of former first round picks and those kind of guys. I think they've done a lot in terms of, like you said, numbers, but I'm not sure that I come out of this free agency first at least 5 days feeling any better about a position except for maybe linebacker. Other than linebacker, I'm not sure I feel really better about any position than I did a week ago today.
Yeah, it's like John Wooden said, don't confuse busy work with getting something done. And don't confuse activity with getting something done. And the Cowboys certainly have been active. My question that I have every offseason, and we got that little drought, does this make them better? Does this put them on the track to be a Super Bowl contender again? And the answer is right now, no. They're not better. I don't know if the team is appreciably better than it was at the end of last season. When you add in the injuries and all other stuff, is the talent base better? Certainly, Jerry Jones told us we don't have any voids we need to fill in free agency. That's all they've done is fill voids. They added running backs. They never started running. They got 2 running backs. They've added linebackers. They really have any linebackers to play with. They traded for a cornerback because they had a dearth there at cornerback because of Trayvon Diggs probably being out for the start of the season and certainly losing Jordan Lewis to Jacksonville. So they lost guys. They put players in place. Are they better talent-wise? That's the question. I don't think they are yet.
I was going to say, like, the Jordan Lewis one specifically sticks out just from a leadership perspective. We're talking about handing over the reins to a defense. Who on that defense is going to have any more cachet than Jordan Lewis at this point? Now that he's out the building, how much does that change the leadership room? Clarence, go ahead.
I mean, you got some guys there. Certainly, also, I think that one thing we need to note, when the Cowboys made a decision to let Jordan go, made a decision to let Tank go, they were basically enabling Micah Parsons. They're basically saying, this is your team, because they're getting ready to not only, make him one of the longest tenured guys on the defense, along with Trayvon Diggs and Osa and Donovan Wilson, I'm sorry, but they're also getting ready to pay him, at least from our understanding, they're going to make him the highest paid defender in NFL history whenever that contract done. So they're basically giving him the green light to be that guy. And certainly you're moving on from Jordan and those guys. So it's not just Tank, it's Osa and those guys. This is your team now. If you look at, certainly when we go back to the stuff we talked about with DeMarcus Lawrence, it was Osa who chimed in and said, bury the dead and let's go on with the living. He was basically calling DeMarcus Lawrence the dead. And you had Trayvon Diggs jumping in and making a statement how DeMarcus Lawrence has been hating on Micah and stuff like that. He deleted the tweets, but they're circling the wagons together. And I think even Overshawn made a comment, so those young guys are circling the wagons together. And so they're circling the wagons behind Micah, behind Osa and those guys.
Maybe there's something positive to come out of that, because there is some coalescing going on within that defense. Saad, go ahead.
Yeah, I also think there's different leadership styles. I mean, we'll see. They still have a different. They still have a contract to give maybe Deron Bland, but I think Deron Bland is probably one of the quietest guys in that locker room. But I wouldn't say that he's not fit to be a leader in the secondary just by his play, the way he carries himself. He's the utmost professional. He's a guy that's very different in his way of leading than someone like Micah. But Clarence mentioned Osa, and if Overshown stays healthy, if Overshown gets on the field and stays healthy, that he is one of the most magnetic personalities on that team. And I think he's somebody that the entire defense, let alone the entire team, would rally around.
So let me say this. Let me say this before we move on. Understand this. The leadership style of Zach Martin and DeMarcus Lawrence didn't work either. The leadership style of Jason and Romo didn't work either, okay? And we got to understand the ultimate person who's in charge of the culture is Jerry Jones, okay? Until that changes or he does something differently, does it really matter?
Well, I mean,
no.
On that note, though, because the comment that stuck out to me most was Brandon Cooks recently basically saying the team doesn't do enough to bolster around Dak specifically. And I feel like this is another offseason that paints straight into that picture. Clarence, what do you take away from, because it's not the first time I feel like we've heard that discussion. Maybe it's a little more vocal this time around, especially coming around from guys that have been in the locker room. From a guy like Cooks, what does it mean to have him voice that?
My thing is this: that it seems like that drought only gets on certain people. Like the fact that DeMarcus Lawrence can have the nerve and audacity to talk about they're not winning, like he wasn't part of the team. It only
for 11 years.
It only attaches itself to Dak and the quarterbacks. Like that's the reason why we're not winning. It's everybody. It's all those. That's why I brought in witnesses that they're all part of the thing. But yeah, they have to do more to help Dak. I mean, you look at what Philadelphia's done. I think Philadelphia's always been the blueprint for how they do things opposite the Cowboys. They paid their quarterback. They also paid their receiver. They got 2 receivers. They paid the offensive lineman. They went and got, Saquon Barkley. Just because you pay your quarterback a lot of money doesn't mean you don't have to give him help. Because it's still, you can't win it by himself. And so, yeah, they have to do more things to bolster the team around Dak. They have to do more things to help Dak. You can't say, because we gave him all this money, you go do it and figure it out. That's not how it is. That's kind of what they did last offseason. They just said, well, we're paying Dak. He has to make up for these other guys in lesser parts of the team. That's not realistic.
Not to mention the fact that you paid Dak all of that money.
Right.
Jerry and Steven keep on blaming the fact that they've paid Dak all this money for why they can't pay guys. You're the one who paid him all that money. Meanwhile, quarterbacks around the league that signed after Dak did aren't making as much as Dak is because you're not good at this. No fence riding after this.
Time now for everyone's favorite game, no fence riding.
Well, I would just like to start with this is not necessarily everyone's favorite concept. This game picks at people.
Finally, 1 week later, the
What have
animation
you done?
plays.
What
Welcome
have
back.
you done? She's not here to defend herself.
She was on the show last week when we did this. Welcome back to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Time now for everyone except Michelle's favorite game, no fence riding. The concept is simple. I have a series of statements for our esteemed panel. It's up to them to decide which side of the fence they're on. No waffling, or they get called out and might get thrown in the open later. All right, first statement here. This is the Stars' best chance to expand their footprint in the DFW sports scene. I think this might be the first time a season has turned into a must-win based on factors that have happened in other sports around the area. And there are plenty of reasons already on the team why this is a must-win for Dallas considering their core. But with all the drama and apathy that the Mavs and Cowboys fans have had, Saad, this has to be their moment, right?
Absolutely. No question about it. I mean, in 2020, they went on that cup run, but again, it was in the bubble. The Mavs were riding the Luka magic and all that stuff. Right now, you have a whole section of fans, I'm talking specifically Mavs fans, who are just, boiled up in anger and looking for something positive to put it behind. And Cowboys fans, as we know, are looking to, Cowboys fans that cross over as Stars fans would love to see a winner. So absolutely, I think this is it.
Clarence, what do you think?
I guess there's only one way to go, up. But again, I think there's only so far they can go. We're still talking about the Cowboys. We're still talking about the Cowboys offseason drama. We're still talking about Luka. I don't think they can ever catch up.
It's not about catching up. I feel like it's just gaining ground. Mike, what do you think?
Well, listen, they can gain ground in this space that we're talking about right now, this March, April, May space where you're still we just spent the entire show talking about the Cowboys. So to Clarence's point, you're never going to catch the Cowboys, but they've got an opportunity to pass the Mavs because there is a Mavs fan base that is actively wanting to go spend their money anywhere except for at a Mavs game right now. So yes, if they can go win something, if they can even just get to the Cup final, but sure, if they hoist the Cup this year, that has a chance to change what winter sports in this town look like.
All right, moving on. Number 2, fans have every right to keep chanting Fire Nico. And for those who didn't hear, both P.J. Washington and Max Christie sounded off against fans chanting it during the games. I'm not advocating for it. I can understand the players' frustration with it. But the fans themselves don't really have a recourse to voice their frustrations otherwise. So I view this as a form of protest. Clarence, what do you think? Have we reached critical mass yet? Should we stop this or keep it going?
I mean, at some point we got to let it go. But being mad at Nico is one thing, but why PJ, he has every right to bite back. I mean, this is about me now. This is about the team. I still wear the jersey, and so he has a right to bite back. At some point, we have to move on and let it go.
Saad, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they can keep doing it as long as they want to. I mean, we see this in all kinds of sports. There's still Minnesota Wild fans who are mad at Norm Green for the relocation of the Dallas Stars. I mean, sometimes you just don't let grudges go, and they have every right until Nico, is fired or whatever their conclusion is for a successful protest. They have every right to keep doing that.
Mike?
They have no need to stop saying this whatsoever, and PJ's got no reason to worry about this either. This isn't about you. I love PJ. PJ's awesome. PJ's a great player. PJ's he's a fan favorite for a reason. I love all things PJ Washington, but PJ, this isn't about you.
I think
I'm shooting free throws, it's about me. When I'm shooting free throws, it's about me.
Right.
That's what my concentration is.
And that,
Okay, fine. Say don't chant it while I'm shooting free throws.
Well,
They can
that's
keep
essentially what
chanting
he
it in
did.
general.
essentially what he did.
But that's when he got mad because he was shooting free throws.
Right. It's one thing to do it to poke at the general manager, but you got to keep it at least
Okay.
positive around the team if they're trying to
Time
climb
and
out
place
together.
is a fair response.
All right. Finally, number 3, questioning the legitimacy of old events has gone on too far now. I don't know if y'all have seen the trend on Twitter recently, but people are actually saying Wilt Chamberlain didn't score 100 points in a game. We had scorekeepers, we had a game on a radio broadcast. He was averaging like 60-plus points the entire week. And I'm not saying skepticism can't be healthy, but what is this that picture it didn't happen is now translated to actual events that did? Mike, what do you think?
This is a much larger conversation than just sports,
That's
dude.
why I'm asking.
People question a lot of things that they've got no business questioning, that they just need to open a history book. Yes, it's gone too far because it's gone too far with a lot of things. Shout out to all you flat earthers out there.
Saad, jump in here.
Yeah, I think it has gone a little too far, but I also understand why there are some people who have that skepticism. But yeah, I think it has gone too far.
Clarence?
It's a young versus old thing. It's like the young folks, these guys that said Jordan played against plumbers and carpenters. He didn't play against real basketball players. They're trying to diminish. The young people are trying to diminish what the old guys did and legends of back in the day, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Do not diminish what Clarence Hill did at Schulenburg back in the day. Clarence Hill and Saad Yousuf, we appreciate you guys very much. Final take after this.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Time now for Mike's final take.
Happy Selection Sunday to all of you who observe one of the great days on the sports calendar for both the men's tournament and the women's tournament. TCU women's basketball is the team here in DFW that deserves your attention right now. What a season this team has had, and what an odyssey it's been from just a little over a year ago now, where they were bringing in players from the volleyball team and walk-ons from across campus to fill out the roster. Now they're a legitimate threat to go to the Final Four. It is one of the coolest stories in the entire area. It's awesome.
By the way, when I was in high school, or excuse me, not high school, elementary school, we were using hot floppy disks. That's how long ago, you know what I mean? Just in terms of like the age of everything.
It's been a long time.
It'll
be a week until we see you again. Good night,
This
everybody.
has been the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.